It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. Welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. Today is a special episode. We've been working on something for about a year and a half now, and finally we are ready to launch. It's a new monthly podcast called What Color is Your Tractor? I hope you like it. Enjoy. Over the years, I've had the incredible opportunity to meet and spend time with the people of the agriculture industry who work hard to manufacture the equipment that farmers depend on. Back when I was in Aggie school in college, I was fascinated by the brand loyalty that I saw surrounding me. The green, red, blue, orange shirts, logos, belt buckles, songs, and heated exchanges between farm kids made me realize that there's a deep history behind those colors that have helped farmers put food on our tables for almost the last century and a half. In spending time on the road during my career, traveling across North America, I've gotten to know the stories of these remarkable companies and have broken bread with many of the people behind the brands. I want to share these stories with you. Welcome to What Color is Your Tractor? The stories of the ag brands you love and the ag brands you love to hate.
Stories behind the ag brands we love and the ag brands we love to hate. What color is your tractor? With Chrissy Wozniak.
I'm Chrissy Wozniak, and welcome to What Color is Your Tractor? My guest today is from Marysville, Kansas. He's the recipient of countless awards in the manufacturing world, and his name is synonymous with quality and innovation. I'd like to welcome Don Landoll. Thank you so much for joining me today, Don.
Thank you.
So I visited Marysville, Kansas in 2015, and I was lucky enough to have you take me on a tour of the factory. And it was a factory tour that I will never forget. I was in awe of the innovation and the incredible orchestration that was evident from the moment I stepped inside. Can you start by telling me how Landoll was actually born?
Well, that goes back to my childhood days. I always give my parents credit. I graduated from Tinker Toys to an erector set at the age of 7, and I've never stopped building since that time. So I went on into high school. I wanted to weld, got started welding in the high school FFA program. I actually built a farm trailer in the FFA program in high school. It won me some awards.
Is that the one that's still outside the building too? Is it that trailer?
We still have the trailer. Yeah, we got it back. I fortunately couldn't. I fortunate to sell it at one time, but I got it back from the neighbors. So, but anyway, so that was kind of the beginning. Then I went to the enlisted in the Air Force the week I got out of school, and I failed my military physical. But at that time, there wasn't trade school, so that was my idea of further education, was going to do it through the Air Force. So then after I was back home in a week, where I got to go to work for our local implement international harvester dealer, and they built playground equipment. And they were diversified there. Of course, we were diversified on the farm. So diversification is in my life daily still today. So from there, I obviously I felt I worked hard for them, and at the age of 20, a partner or another gentleman working there, we had a chance to buy the welding shop here in Marysville. So he asked me to be his partner. So we agreed to a partnership, and we bought the business the day that President Kennedy was assassinated.
Oh, wow.
So we came down and with one hired man, we started the welding, radiator, and blacksmith shop. So our diversification. And then, my first contract work was I started building for anhydrous ammonia toolbars and liquid feeders. So I got a slow taste. And after 2.5 years, he had the opportunity to go back to the railroad. So he sold me his remaining half.
Wow.
Financed the remaining half for me. And so I was able to be on my own in 1969, 67, I guess, 67. So from there on, we started out, slowly. I had a desire that I wanted to be a sole ownership. I didn't want partnerships. I wanted to make decisions and go forward. And that allowed me to do that. So being on my own, but that also controls your growth financially. So anyway, we got off started in 68. I turned the anhydrous ammonia toolbar into a chisel plow, and that was a fall tool. So then I needed something to build in the spring. So that's where I came up with the traveling axle trailer, which was a major thing in our lifetime. As working for the International Harvester dealer, I come close to having a wreck on some snowy roads. And I like my little sayings of one man's problems, another's opportunities. So I think that's my definition of entrepreneurship. So I got the traveling axle started, and the farm shows, this before your time, but M&W used to have a farm show back, very similar to Farm Progress, except they had a tractor pull for their rather than field demonstration. So, but anyway, I sold my first 3 trailers at that show, 2 of them to M&W Farm Equipment. So
wow,
I got my start with farm equipment there. So, and then as we go forward, we jump up to like 1980. That's when farming was very tough, so there's farmers were going broke readily at that time. So I had to find things that we could do. So I had a gentleman call me from the East Coast, and he said, "Hey, that trailer will haul buses with a few modifications." So that's where I got into the towing and recovery business, answering and taking advantage of his questions and opportunity. And that towing has went on. Towing and recovery was much a family business as farming or implement dealerships. Those days were all single dealerships and that. So, but that allowed them to have a second source of income for a trailer in their line of work, and that went on to where I ended up getting into their towing Hall of Fame with that trailer, and we build many of them yet today.
Wow.
So that's so then we get into then they said, well, we can haul Sealand containers. When the Sealand containers become a number of those were needed to be placed for storage on the farm and dealerships and wherever. And then they came the rental industry, and the rental industry had a need for hauling equipment. So just one thing led to another on that side.
Right.
So,
yeah. You're just always open to opportunity, right? And that's what's kind of steered you through these decades.
My theory is generate, recognize, and take advantage of your opportunities. Right. So that's kind of how I evaluate each project.
That's incredible. So what was your very first product that you've manufactured?
Well, the first project that we put our name on was this farm stock rack that slid into the back of a farm pickup. And that gave me something that I could get my hands around. Right. And that was my first thing I put my name on. And followed that was liquid supplement feeders. liquid supplement feeders with molasses-based supplement. And we did very well. The major feed companies at that time, they had the product, but they didn't have a way to distribute it. They knew of the tanks, but that started building tanks. And so all the feed stores up and down the highway ended up being customers, because in order to sell their feed, they had to have a product to put it in. So I was a direct selling to the farm equipment people, the farm elevators and that then. So that was kind of my real early product.
Yeah. And you now have over the years branched out into several different industries as well. Do you want to talk about that diversification and why that was important for you?
Well, as we said, in the early 80s, when farming was so tough, I had a gentleman call me from FMC Corporation, and that was in 1980, and he said that Silicon Valley was booming, and they were located in California. He's a Midwestern boy. He was calling on TWA out here in Kansas City, and he said, I just had to looking for somebody that could help me build these trailers. He said, so I drove across the street, driving through a farm equipment lot, and he said, I seen your yellow paint at that time, and he said, I got out and I looked at the quality of your welds, and I said, there's somebody that most likely needs some work since he's in the farm equipment business. So my right-hand man and I went to California, and we started out with the palletized trailers that you see around the airports, running around underneath the airplanes. And then we got, they went on strike. And so they had de-icers that they built, that they had 10 of them that were partially put together. So he said, I've got enough faith in you guys that you can put those together for me. So that was in 1981 or two. And then, so we built them for a couple years for them. And then in 84, why the military come along and wanted to buy 391 aircraft de-icers, and that was unbelievable. So we won that contract. That was a $43.8 million winning. And we took that on to over a 14-year period. We built 2,000 de-icers for the military. So that would definitely put us in the military business. We won the national award for Contractor of the Year in 1986 for building de-icers for the Air Force. We came up with, then Bendy came along, and, it was a gentleman in England had the patent on the Bendy, but he had a great patent and a poor design product. And so I got in touch with him. He invited me over to England. We looked at the product. I told him what my thoughts was. So for the American market, he allowed me to redesign it to what I wanted to do. He liked my product so well, why he started importing them back to England from Kansas. Wow. And he became a major customer in worldwide. 10 years into it, 2003, why Drexel came up for sale, the company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And they built specialized forklifts for the military. So with that, we ended up, after a long period of time, they came out to buy us, and we ended up buying them. And but Drexel's number one customer was the military. So that fit very well into our background, knowing how to handle the military through aircraft de-icers. So
I've been lucky that I've been able to see the Bendy in action. Can you describe for everyone what it does?
Well, the Bendy is a narrow aisle fork truck. So we can, but in about 5.5 foot aisles, we can put 42 by 48 inch pallets of hay very easily. And then the Drexel, they're very narrow aisle. So they can drop down to about 54 inch aisles and put a 42 by 48 inch pallet away. So that's, instead of a factory or a warehouse building additional space where they don't have room to build additional space, they can narrow up their aisles up to 20 to 30% additional product in by using our lift trucks. And we are selling them to, Cases, IH has got our fork trucks, John Deere's got our forklifts, Ford Motor Company's got our forklifts. So we do very well in some of the people that we compete with in the farm equipment. AGCO's got our fork trucks, so we do quite well in that industry.
Yeah, that's really, really neat. And that's what, like I said at the beginning, is that you walk into your factory and you can tell the innovation is probably the priority. How do you decide what to make? Do you have a process where you look at something and you decide, do you have to go through steps, or is it just you get a hunch? What is it?
Well, number one, in diversification, whether we can handle that product. Mm-hmm. Secondly, do we have time allowed that we can put that product into our line? I've tried to draw the line on the 4 product lines. Which one were those? What might meet up with? Like Drexel, of course, met up with Bendy very well. We bought Brilliant, and Brilliant, of course, sets up at the farm equipment side very well. We bought Brilliant in 2010, so that's all. So just one to the other, but there's many opportunities out there. It seems but a lot of them are the volume isn't there. Some of the volume's big, some of the volume is inadequate. So you just got to weigh them one at a time.
Right. You told me, I remember during the tour you gave us that you had a steel storage issue years ago, and it's a really cool story of how you overcame that.
That's time to time. You certainly have those things, mm-hmm. But the greatest thing I like about my steel story is a gentleman Jack had Steel and Pipe Supply. He started that company, but he was very much interested in helping people get started. So he gave me open credit the first day I was in business, and we've had it ever since. So if you had tough times, he'd learn you how to negotiate, be faithful, give you additional time to pay for things. And so that's relationships. I'm very big on building relationships. I feel build a strong foundation so you can get through those ups and downs.
Yeah, and you ended up being able to store the steel right on site, right?
Sure, yes. Yeah. And we today we contract buy in 6-month periods to get away from some of the ups and downs, in the marketplace.
Right.
So we know our costs, which is very important.
Mm-hmm. And you've, from what I could see, you've single-handedly turned Marysville into an entirely self-sufficient community. Did you set out to do this, or was this a byproduct of good business and taking care of people?
Well, in the 60s and 70s, industry to the farm areas was a real shining star. I mean, people, every little community was looking for industry, and they still are. Mm-hmm. So, but first of all, the railroad employed over 200 people here. We're a railroad town, so we had our basis of railroaders. And then they brought a factory in that built tension envelopes. But I did a lot of work with them on their day-to-day basis. But they also got industrial revenue bonds, so that's a financially inexpensive way to build buildings or finance buildings. So then my desire was to build a big building like they did with some help of industrial revenue bonds. So then from that, we worked into Valley Vet here, which is a very big mail order supply house here. They got about 140 people just selling veterinary supplies and farm and ranch supplies across America. So they're a good relationship to deal with. And we have Georgia Pacific here that mine sheetrock. So we have a diversification of industries here for a town of 3,200. So we rely on about a 50-mile radius. For sure, 35 down, we're heavily relied on if our people come to work every day. So right. That's, in housing, and, there's just a lot of challenges in trying to grow in a relatively small community.
Right. That's it. And I know just from stories I've heard that if you see a need in the community that you can fill and you can build infrastructure, then you do it. Like,
right.
The airport, libraries, things, the hospital, right?
Yeah, we've been very much involved in those, and we just we coming up our second. We completed about a $8 million church here that I was chairman of, and we built in the community and built it traditional. So we've gotten a lot of publicity out of our church. No matter what the religion, it just people enjoy seeing things from the past. We designed our own clock and the bell tower, and it was all built in our factory and in our little bit of extra time and assembled. So we're proud to have a background of all those.
Yeah. And it's evident that your faith has definitely been a big part of your life too, right?
Right. Yeah. We grew up and, going to parochial schools and all. And so, learned the basics. Math was always my strong, only subject I had was strong in, but I love, I could do math, still can do math quite well. And so we kind of went on from there. And now we currently are in the process of a major expansion in an all new vocational ag building. Oh, wow. And I'm building that adjoint to the high school. So I want people that going into vocational ag or FFA or welding, I want them to feel it's just as high or higher it is all the rest of the subjects in the school. So they're no longer walking across the football field to a tin shed to go to vocational ag. It's part of the whole school system. So.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, and that's needed these days, right? A lot of youth don't realize that ag is even that it could be a future in ag. And walking through your factories, that there are so many opportunities.
And, in the day of ladies being involved in vocational ag, of course, my school days of vocational ag, they didn't even consider joining ag or going to ag. I mean, the girls went to home ec, but today, both our teachers are ladies, and that's just very common in today's world. Our president of the FFA is a lady, multiple ladies on the board or on their officers' slate. So, yeah, it's times have changed, and we attempt to change with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also remember walking through the shop and seeing posters on the equipment with facts and stats about the machines. So why did you decide to do that, and what's the reason behind it? I thought it was really interesting to be able to read those facts and those stats, and so it really intrigued me.
Well, number one, I've in my early days, of course, I bought a lot of used equipment because that's all I could justify or afford. Mm-hmm. But one of my great challenges, I grew up on the labor inside, and so I truly appreciate the people out in the shop doing the work. And so I wanted to get them the best equipment available. And then by putting the prices on the equipment, they know what that piece of equipment is worth. And so they understand the value of it. And then we're a profit sharing company, been in business over 57 years, and we've only had 2 layoffs in 57 years.
Wow.
So the profit sharing, which they are a major part of, last year we paid a 12.3% bonus on their W-2 form, so for profit sharing, it's paid out once a year. So we're very proud of that. We got a 15-year average with over 11%. So we've only had 1 or 2 years in 8 years of profit sharing that we wasn't able to give the profit back to the employees. So we want everyone to feel a part of the company, and they are a major part of the company.
Right. Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. And of the family and the employees of Landoll that I've met over the years, I find that there's one constant. They're genuine, strong, and they are proud of the Landoll name. How did you do that? How did you surround yourself with such incredible people who are so proud of what you stand for?
Well, I like to use a little saying, ordinary people doing extraordinary things is a feeling I got, and we take great pride in that. Our materials manager started out on a fork truck. One of our top 3 trailer salesmen started out in the office verifying excise tax forms. And we can just name them over and over, the people that have grown up within the company. So we got a lot of long-term relationships, and of course, That's part of the profit sharing where at the annual basis, that's based on your wages. We pay a Christmas bonus based on your seniority. So
Wow.
we don't want to. I want to take care of the people that built the foundation as well.
Right.
So with the foundation they built, some of these newer people got a place to come and work and be successful.
Right. Is there anyone that stands out over the years as one of the most memorable employees?
And that's an interesting question. And there obviously a lot of interesting people. But Tom Joyce, he went to work for me in 1975. He was my second male. There's only two. One lady and I were the only two in the office at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And Tom came with a background from Kenworth Peterbilt trucks in Kansas City, born and raised in downtown Kansas City, and wanted to get his family out of the downtown Kansas City. So he came out with a lot of expertise as far as costing, purchasing, banking background. He's the one that got us into online or overline banks. Local banks couldn't handle our credit line, so he got us lined up with Kansas City banks that we could work with, for our credit and that. So Tom stayed with us for 25 years. Wow. He was 10 years older than I, but at the end of the 25 years, he retired a little bit young and did a little consulting after he retired. But he born and raised in Kansas City. He had a tough bringing up, but and coming out here in the Midwest, why, you had to go around behind him and smooth things out once in a while. But he did know, he knew the rights and wrongs. He just wasn't always didn't have the patience to put it across as smoothly as need be with some of these rural kids.
Wow. And so you've accomplished more in your life than 10 normal people. Looking back on all that, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember you and your name when they think of you?
Well, I feel I'm genuine. I'm still that country boy that grew up on a poor farm, in a sense. My folks had less than a half section of land to raise 8 children on.
Wow.
I grew up milking cows and so it was, and we weren't grade A. So that was cold mornings were pretty tough going, but that being the oldest son, that was part of it. So I think just trying to be a genuine role and help those that we can along the way.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. So I have one more question for you. What color is your tractor? And what do you think about brand loyalty in agriculture?
Well, that's as I said, earlier, I'm loyal to a lot of brands, but the Ford tractor, the 8N Ford, it's hard to believe today, but Dad put, and the neighbors did as well. I started farming at 7 years old. I go out and plow by myself.
Wow.
Which is just unheard of, in later years.
These days.
In current times, of course, the equipment has changed so much and so much bigger and all that. But so the old Ford tractor, and then later on in life, I did build farm equipment for Ford out of Detroit there for a number of years. And then, like I said, International is the only people I work for, so I certainly am not anti-international. Mm-hmm. And then Case, I spent 14 years building for Case. And so we built 4 product lines, was building 4 product lines when the Case IH merger came along. So obviously with their Hamilton plant, they didn't need us. Mm-hmm. So then we built for John Deere Dubuque Works, their industrial sites. We built actually dozers for their 450 crawlers and rollover protection ROP stuff. So I've had the privilege of meeting, the head of John Deere and some major people, AGCO, met there, worked with their president, so when AGCO closed the new Idea plant in Salina, Ohio, they moved after considerable negotiation, we moved 100 truckload of parts out here that they had. And we made the missing parts to ship to their AGCO dealers. Wow. So out of Marysville, Kansas here. And then when they bought Sunflower, they did away with that line. So they actually give us what was left, and as far as the product line, we could build any of them we wanted and paint them our colors. So I've had a great relationship with most all the majors, and of course John Deere is a major customer base for us. So their dealers are.
Oh, that's cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you to everybody who's listening. If you want to learn more, they can go to landoll.com, right?
That's correct.
That's good. And the links will be provided in the show notes as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to What Color is Your Tractor? I hope you learned something new about the brand you love or hate. If you're a manufacturer who would like to apply to be featured on this show, please visit whatcolorisyourtractor.com/contact and fill out the form.